I hate camera filters. What the frick was that? Was that a filter? Oh man. Is that my tooth? Oh no, it's a in-body camera filter. What? So these are the case in-body camera filters, and unlike traditional filters that fit in front of your lens like this, these are actually fit in between your sensor and your lens, and they actually are installed on this side. They're small, lightweight, and instead of having to buy multiple filters of different sizes, these just fit with every single lens. Perfectly designed for the camera mount, so you don't even have to worry about them falling out. Those are in there. Now, before I compare these to traditional filters, let me just tell you how I got here. This all started because I was trying to buy a red filter for underwater photography. What is a red filter? These are literally just filters that are the color red. You see, when light enters water, it does a bunch of weird things. Colors will rapidly start filtering out. After you go 10 feet deep, reds will just start disappearing. As you go deeper, you'll lose oranges, yellows, and greens too. And eventually, after 70 feet, everything just becomes shades of blue. So use a filter like this to bring back your reds into your photos and make them look normal again. So to bring this back to the prom, this is my underwater housing for my A7S III. And even though these look big, these have some really tight tolerances. And if I want to use different lenses with this, I'll have to physically change the lens ports at the front of this housing to accommodate any lens sizes. Traditionally, people would just tell you to buy the biggest filter size you need for your lens, and then use step down rings like this to adapt them to your smaller lenses. And even though that technically works, that doesn't work in housings like these. So if I want to use this Tamron 28-75 underwater, and I want to use the biggest filter I have, which is this 82mm, you can physically see that if I zoom this lens out, I'm gonna hit the glass dome. And so if I was gonna use traditional filters that fill in the front of my lens like this, I'll have to buy different sizes for each lens. And as we all know, filters are not cheap. And then after a bunch of digging, I found the Case Red filters and then discovered they had a whole lineup of other filters, and I just bought them all. Alright, I'm gonna put these all down because they're just gonna get in the way and I don't want them to break. Oh, I guess if you're wondering what those things were in the background, that was the underwater housing. I actually have two more over here for smaller cameras. I just want to also say that I purchased these filters myself, and this is not a sponsored video. I own a ton of gear, and this honestly has been probably one of the best value purchases of my entire career. And so here's 5 reasons why these are just awesome. The first and most obvious reason is because they work with every lens. This is my 12-24mm lens. You can see that the front element is so bulbous that I can't even accept regular filters. Traditionally, if you still wanted to use filters on these, you'd have to buy third-party systems that clamp onto the front part of the lens and then insert big square glass filters into them. And these filters are huge, heavy, and stupidly expensive. However, this lens in particular is an exception, and it actually accepts rear filters. However, rear filters will only work with the one lens they were designed for, so you won't actually be able to use those filters on any other lenses. It's kind of a no-brainer if you're gonna buy rear filters to just buy these. And the second reason I already kind of touched base on is not having to use step-down rings anymore. And if you have a wide variety of lenses, you'll quickly realize you end up with monstrosities like this. And using step-down rings on wider lenses can actually cause a bunch of issues. The lens that you're using is so wide that it can actually pick up the edges of the filters. And so if you have like 3 or 4 of these, you can lose a lot of image quality. The third reason why these are awesome is that it can actually save a ton of time. If you're constantly switching out lenses, the filter stays with the camera. If you're that person that only bought one filter, you don't have to spend time grabbing the other lens, unscrewing the filter off, and then installing it onto your new lens. It's just always there. The fourth reason is that these things are just flippin' tiny. Look at this. This entire kit, if I can fit them all in my hands. All these filters are probably less glass in total than this 182mm filter. And if I know how you need to carry 1 or 2 of these, instead of carrying the whole case, I'll just toss these into those cases that come with your SD cards. And then just throw this in my bag somewhere. And voila, I got a filter ready to go at any time. And the last reason is that you don't have to worry about filters seizing to your lenses. If you used filters before, we've all had that experience where the filter just would not come off. And then you've had to like 2-man, grab rubber bands, heat up the front element. A big pain in the butt when it happens. In worst case scenarios, if you dropped your lens and you damaged the filter threads, there's no way you're getting that filter off. You'll have to bring pliers to your lens or somehow cut it off. It just sucks. Now with these filters, you never have to worry about that because they give you a handy dandy guitar pick tool and you just pop it right out gently right into your hands like that. Now these filters aren't all fun and games, and here's the reasons why these filters might not be for you. So even though they make these from ND4 all the way to ND1000, there isn't any variable filters or gradual ND filters or even circular polarizers. It's just the nature of these filters. There's no way to interact with these filters when they're inside your body. The second reason is that installing these can feel pretty sketchy at first, because if you end up messing up the installation process somehow, there's nothing there to protect your sensor. So these is gonna land on your sensor and could scratch it. However, the process is pretty straightforward. Just take the filter and install it at a 45-degree angle and drop it in. And it just plops right in and it's in there. However, if you are worried, I did find a super cheap tool here. Now this is actually a lens maintenance tool, and this is used to extract glass elements from a lens. It's kind of like one of those blowers, but it has a suction cup at the end. Look at that. And you can just drag and drop it in. You can actually use this tool to pull it out too. Now if you do buy these filters, please read the instructions and understand that the lettering here actually is supposed to be installed inside the camera. If you install it the other way, the filter will not install properly and will just fall out. The third reason is if you're using ND filters and you're moving in between indoors and outdoors all the time, you might frequently have to take out the filter, and that can eat a lot of time. The fourth reason is that you might have to clean your sensor more often, as it's going to make your sensor more vulnerable to dust. However, I have heard of people leaving the UV filter option installed 99% of the time. And because it's a layer of glass in front of your sensor, it eliminates how much dust would actually land on the sensor. So depending on you, it could also be a pro. And the last reason is that these are actually only limited to certain lens mounts. If you're using something like the Leica M mount, they actually don't have an option for you yet. Maybe that's something they'll fix in the future. But what do you think? Would you use these? Now, if you like this video, you know what to do to let me know. Or if you want to stay in touch for future videos, consider subscribing. And until next time, ciao.